The air is thick with iron and sweat. For hours the line has held, men shoulder to shoulder, shields locked, a living wall of wood and steel. The relentless din of battle is all they know. Screams, the clang of metal, the thud of weapons finding flesh. Their world shrinks to a few feet of mud and blood. But then a man falters, another turns. A gap appears, widening like a crack in a dam. The shield wall dissolves. Morale collapses in an instant. Survival instincts override discipline. Men who stood firm now think only of escape. The ranks disintegrate into a frantic, shoving mass. The army dies as a unit. Now each man is alone and exposed. The real slaughter begins. The sounds shift. Organized combat replaced by panicked shouts and the roars of victors. The hunters surge forward, energized by the scent of blood. Comrades trample each other in desperation. The ground becomes a deadly obstacle course of bodies. The structured violence of battle gives way to chaotic butchery. For the fleeing soldier, his shield is now a burden, his helmet a blindfold. Courage evaporates, replaced by isolation and terror. The enemy, sensing victory, charges with renewed vigor. Exhaustion is forgotten in the adrenaline of the chase. The battle is over, but the massacre has just begun. This is the brutal reality behind the heroic legends. For the individual, it's a descent into personal hell. Medieval battles weren't decided in the clash, but in the rout. Most casualties didn't fall in the main engagement. They died in the chaos after the line broke. A disciplined retreat could save lives, but a rout was a death sentence. Once panic set in, the army became a mob, easy prey for the victors. The pursuit was a hunt, not a battle. Victorious soldiers, freed from defense, focused on killing. Their exhaustion vanished, replaced by bloodlust and the promise of loot. The fleeing had no defense, no protection, only fear. Casualties soared. Sometimes half or more of an army was lost in the rout. Men were cut down from behind, too tired and burdened to fight or flee. The victors had every advantage, speed, morale, and the upper hand. Commanders obsessed over discipline, knowing a broken line meant annihilation. If a leader could rally his men, he might save them. If not, they were doomed. The rout was the true execution ground of medieval warfare. The battle was the contest. The rout was the slaughter. Bannockburn 1314, a Scottish victory, but also a lesson in the horror of a rout. The English army, once confident, broke and fled. The Scottish spearmen pressed relentlessly, driving the English into deadly terrain. Hemmed in by rivers, the English plunged into the Bannockburn, weighed down by armour and panic. The banks became bottlenecks of death. Men and horses drowned or were cut down. The river was so choked with bodies that some crossed it dry-shod. Knights drowned, their status meaningless. Geography became a weapon, trapping the defeated. Survivors scattered, hunted across hostile land. King Edward II barely escaped. Many nobles did not. Bannockburn's rout shattered the English and secured Scottish independence. The path of retreat proved deadlier than the battlefield itself. Bosworth Field, 1485, another lesson in the perils of retreat. King Richard III's desperate charge failed. His army collapsed. The landscape turned against the fleeing royalists. Ambion Hill offered initial safety, but a nearby marsh became a death trap. Exhausted men in heavy armour plunged into the mire, unable to escape. The marsh swallowed hundreds, while Tudor's soldiers finished the rest. Panic drove men into greater danger. Richard himself was unhorsed and killed in the chaos. The lack of order and treacherous terrain turned defeat into slaughter. Even a king was powerless once the rout began. Bosworth's marsh claimed as many as the sword. The rout sealed the fate of Richard's army. In battle, armour was protection. In retreat, it was a curse. Heavy, restrictive, and exhausting, armour slowed fleeing soldiers to a crawl. After hours of fighting, a desperate sprint was nearly impossible. Helmets muffled sound and narrowed vision. making escape even harder. Cavalry thrived in the rout. Fresh horses outran exhausted men. Knights cut down the fleeing with ease. Turning to fight was suicide. The thunder of hooves brought terror, not hope. Men discarded shields and weapons, making themselves even more vulnerable. Cavalry's pursuit ensured the broken army could not regroup. Armor, once a symbol of strength, became an iron coffin. The rout was the cavalry's harvest. Few escaped the mounted killers. The long run home was often the last. Escaping the enemy was only the beginning. Nature became the next foe. Medieval battlefields were surrounded by forests, hills, swamps, and rivers. Fleeing soldiers plunged into the wild, lost and alone. Rivers, once barriers to the enemy, became deadly traps. Many drowned, weighed down by gear. Forests offered cover, but also confusion. Men got lost, injured, or simply vanished. A twisted ankle or broken leg meant certain death. No medics, no help. Nature was merciless. Local peasants were often hostile, seeing fugitives as threats or opportunities for loot. Defeated soldiers were hunted by both man and wilderness. Many who survived the rout died in the wild. The land itself became an executioner. Survival was a matter of luck, not skill. Few ever made it home. For those who escaped pursuit and nature, new killers awaited. Hunger, thirst, and exposure. Fleeing soldiers carried no supplies. Food and water were left behind. Starvation quickly sapped strength and will. Finding safe water was a desperate gamble. Disease or dehydration claimed many. Exposure finished the rest. Cold nights, rain, and exhaustion led to hypothermia. In winter, frostbite and gangrene set in. Sleep became dangerous. Many never woke again. The elements killed impersonally and efficiently. The psychological toll was immense. Despair replaced adrenaline. Hope faded with each day. Each failed attempt to find shelter. Many simply gave up, lying down to die. The wild claimed more lives than the sword. Survival was rare and always uncertain. The medieval retreat reveals a timeless truth. Survival depends on unity, not individual heroics. A single soldier, no matter how brave, was helpless once the formation broke. The shield wall was trust made real. When it shattered, so did hope. Panic was the true killer. Once it spread, the army died. Men ran from swords into rivers, marshes, and forests, sealing their fate. Only a disciplined, orderly retreat could save lives. The lone fugitive faced impossible odds against nature and man alike. Survival required community, planning, and mutual support. The story of the rout is a warning. Disunity is fatal. The thousands who died after battle weren't weak, they were abandoned by their group. Their fate is a lesson in the price of panic and the power of cohesion. In crisis, collective discipline is the greatest strength. The rout's legacy is a chilling reminder. Together, we survive. Alone, we perish.